Hey everyone, and welcome back to the 10 o'clock session brought to you by one of our sponsors, the IBAA. I'm really excited about this next session because I think the one common theme we talked about all yesterday, all this morning is people. And even though we're at a digital conference, I think we all recognize that digital technology is nothing without the right people in place. So for our next presenter here, Jenn Devlin is an insurance professional, broker, a veteran in the game who went on to start her own company, Sauce Recruitment, where she puts the right insurance people at the right insurance jobs at the right time. So take it away, Jenn.
Thank you. Thank you, Tom, for that introduction. Welcome, everyone. I wish that I could see you, as so much of my business is face-to-face, and it feels a little bit odd here just talking to my camera, but we'll see if I can fill up the next 40 minutes or so with some ideas for you and some tips and tricks on recruitment in the insurance industry. What I'd like you to do really is, you're not going to have to focus too hard. What I'm talking about today is not super technical, but I would like you to just sit back and really give yourself permission to listen to what I'm talking about and try to be creative and apply it to your own business. So as we go through the different points, just see how you can apply things to your own business and make sure that, going forward, you are taking the time and spending the effort on doing some recruitment for your business because, as Tom mentioned, even in this digital age and the transformation of the insurance industry, we still need our people. So to start off, what I would like to do, if you're into a little bit of interactive session here, is I'd like you to just take out a pen and paper or type a note on your phone. If you, in a perfect world, had the candidate that you're looking for come into your office tomorrow, what 2 or 3 things would you say that candidate would either have in terms of experience and skills, or what 2 or 3 points would you have for the role that you're looking for somebody to fill? So it could either be specifics on the type of candidate you would hire tomorrow, or a role that you've been looking to fill and you just can't quite find that right person. So just take a couple minutes to jot down a few points on that. And then when you're finished, just put it off to the side. So we're going to do a fairly general overview here today. Hopefully you can see that slide on there. Start off with a little bit of a discussion surrounding human capital and the importance of people in the insurance industry. Then we'll jump into recruitment and talk about turnover. Turnover in the insurance industry is a pretty enormous part of why we need recruitment. And I'd like to go into recruitment, the challenges of recruitment, both on a macro level and on a micro level. So macro being, what is our responsibility as an industry? And micro level, how are we managing recruitment at the level of the organization? Opportunities for recruitment, looking at building candidate pipelines, and also an opportunity to promote your business within the industry. We'll go into some recruitment strategies as well and talk about how, technology is being used. Specifically, LinkedIn is a huge platform in the recruitment space right now. And talk about other strategies you might be using, like employee referrals, third-party recruiters, of course. And then we'll move into a question and discussion period, where I think that Tom will be leading that, but we'll just kind of play it by ear, but I think that we'll leave the questions to the end. I'm just going to do this in more of a presentation style. So that is what we should expect from the next hour. So I founded Sauce in 2018 after I had spent over 15 years in the insurance world. I always knew that I loved introducing people and really connecting people. I also had a great time navigating really large networks of pretty large firms that I worked for. And meeting the people and finding out what people did was always more of a passion for me than, the actual insurance, which I know is not uncommon, but I was very specific to leaning towards the people side of the business. So One day I was going for lunch with a past colleague, and we ended up talking about a mutual connection who had actually started working in insurance recruitment in BC. And all of a sudden, the light bulb just went on for me. I was going to be an insurance recruiter. This was going to be like my dream job that I would carve out for myself. So I always had, like, do you have a daydreaming job that you think about, oh, if I could do anything, this is what I would do? I wanted to be Patty Stringer from The Millionaire Matchmaker. I'm not kidding. Like, matching people up for love is just sounds so fun to me, but there's so much liability in that. So I figured, why not for insurance? Like, if not for love, why not for insurance? I have the network, I know about the industry, and you know what? It was a great fit, and the rest is history. So I went on and created Sauce Recruitment, really with the intention of focusing on representing high-performing insurance professionals. I am a headhunter. I mean, we look for the best staff, and we don't typically play in the space of people looking for work. So as much as we need to try and support the candidates in our industry, absolutely, our job is to support our clients and find the best people for those roles that they're looking to fill. Now, many people ask how I got to the name Sauce Recruitment, which is great because that's probably one of the reasons why I named it Sauce. It's a little bit different. It's a conversation starter. I feel like there's this misperception of the insurance industry as being like a really bland, boring industry. And I feel like even half of the people in the industry feel that way. So it's our job at Sauce to add a little flavor, right? Take something bland and spice it up, put some sauce on it. Instead of talking about the insurance part of the job, we really focus on the company that you're going to work for. We focus on the relationships, the innovation, all of the cool projects going on, right? The unlimited career path potential in this industry is phenomenal. Like, you can pivot and carve out your own career path in so many different ways and just really grow with all of that knowledge that you collect along the way. So, add some sauce and let's get excited about promoting the insurance industry. Now, why is recruitment so important in the insurance industry? And why is recruitment of new entrants specifically important to our industry? It all comes back to the fact that we need human capital. We need people to do this job. Even though our systems and our data and our innovation is moving towards technology, we still need people to support that technology. So we still need human capital. So our most important resource, human capital, the skills, knowledge, and experience possessed by an individual, by a human, viewed in terms of their value to the organization. The skills, knowledge, and experience of a human. That is what we need in the insurance industry. Without the best people, we won't have the level of innovation that we need to move forward. Without the best people working at our companies, we can't support our clients and have that sustainable growth that we all want. And without the best people in our network, we will not have a resourceful insurance network and an insurance community, which is again, like, that network, especially as you start getting into higher level positions, is so important. It's so important to have peers and competitors, that you can talk with and learn from. So will the skill set of the individuals in the industry may change, but I still believe that we will always need, the same number of people focusing on client service. It's just such a human piece. Somebody spoke yesterday about really wanting to engage with the customer experience. Well, I think that in order to have that experience and understand what people want, you kind of need to be a person yourself to know that. So it all works together. The second reason that at an industry level, we really need to focus on getting out the word about insurance is that it's that misconception again. People think that insurance is a career in sales. As soon as you say to someone that you work in insurance, they think that you sell auto or they think that you sell life insurance, right? And sales, my goodness, like, no, people are like, no, I don't want to do sales. They shouldn't be so scared of it, because I think that sales and insurance is more through an education, not really sales per se. But people, a lot of people, most people don't like sales. So we need to get out and really like talk about the technology, talk about the innovation, the leadership needs in our industry, and the client service, right? So much of our job is a service job. The sales part just happens at the beginning. So I wanted to give a quick shout out to Career Connections. Career Connections is a group that is attached to the Insurance Institute, and they've been doing a really cool thing by going out and creating career ambassadors to actually go into the school system, like as young as high school, to talk about all of the different silos that you can get into in insurance and really talk about what's going on in the insurance industry, including brokerage positions too, but also all of the other supporting and project-based positions that you can have. It's so important that we change this perception of the insurance industry when people are young. We need to develop the idea that our insurance industry is a meaningful industry where you can have a phenomenal career. And we have to do it before people choose to go into post-secondary, right? Right now, insurance is not a career of choice. I mean, or sorry, a career of first choice. Let's put it that way. It's not a career of first choice. Just yesterday, I heard somebody doing an interview on LinkedIn, and they basically said, you know, that they fell into insurance. Somebody asked, why did you choose to go in insurance? Oh, I fell into insurance. It is the most commonly used phrase. You know, I'm guilty of using it myself. I did fall into insurance. But I'm curious, you know, and I'm going to let Tanya highlight one of the, thank you, Tanya. Did you fall into insurance? I'd love it if our audience, those of you who are in the insurance industry, just take a minute to fill this out. Did you fall into insurance? Are you guilty of saying that when you introduce your career path to other people? I just did my own little survey there. Yes, I fell into insurance. I was the file clerk at a Barton Insurance, which used to be, is now Hub, in the Pine Center Mall, and I basically sold auto insurance at kind of like a registry, if you're familiar with Alberta, sitting at a wicket, selling auto insurance for 4 years while I went to university. And honestly, the mall location was perfect because I got to work Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and off you go. I mean, that was my start to the insurance industry. My girlfriend babysat for Craig Barton, so that's how I got the job. So let's stop with this, like, it's not really self-deprecating, but let's stop with putting such an emphasis on falling into insurance, and instead, let's talk about what we love about it, about what we love about the industry, or what makes us excited about things moving forward. Next time you're at a party, I challenge you to have a 1 or 2 sentence elevator speech ready. When somebody asks you what you do for a living and you tell them that you're an insurance broker, like before the point of the buzzkill, talk about your elevator speech. Bam, right? This is it. Let me tell you what I do for a living. I think that we all need to start doing that. Insurance, I've always said, you know, trying to relate why I loved the insurance industry and still think that it's fantastic to promote. It's the perfect industry for somebody with a curious mind and a really short attention span. So I don't know if I can take claim to that quote, but you know what? Let's make it a quote. So that's on the micro level, right? Populating our industry with lots of really great people from an entry level, and then also working together to change the perception of the industry. Now, drilling down, to the point of your own organization. Two main reasons, of course, why we need recruitment within the individual organization. One is because hopefully we're growing at a reasonably steady rate, and two, to support the turnover, right? Turnover in our industry is a thing. I mean, it is definitely very high. I don't know what the numbers are compared to other industries, but it's just always seemed to be an issue since I joined the insurance industry in 1994, I think it was. And I just want to expand briefly on that too and address the millennial workforce that is the millennials that are joining our workforce now. So the millennials, they leave their jobs for the same reasons that everybody else does, which I'll go into in a minute. But millennials are far more open than past generations to make that move more quickly, right? They're quite impatient. So they have this like get on with it attitude. They want to be happy. Millennials, like they really want to live their best life. Can you argue with that? I feel like they're going to bring, and they already are, bringing so much perspective to the industry about just having fun, learning, doing well. If you let them sit there in a holding pattern, they will get frustrated and hightail it out of there. So you have to make sure that you keep them engaged, right? They are smart. They're the most educated generation that we have ever seen. And they're super motivated. But if they're not engaged, then they're out. So just keep that in mind. And the fact that, you know, they just don't have a lot of patience. So 3 main reasons that people leave their jobs. I'm going to try and go into the chat here and see if I can see anybody chatting. Here we go. So curious, what do you think the main reason is that people leave their jobs? Does anybody have a guess on the chat? Number 1 reason for people leaving their jobs, millennial or otherwise? Nobody? Boredom. Bad boss. Ding, ding, ding. Took us 2 times to get that. Bad boss. Yes, opportunities for advancement. Poor management. I want to show you this clip that I found right here. Okay, so we're going to go into this. Alice, I want you to interview a candidate. Let me know what you think. Why did you leave your last job? I punched my boss. He's exactly what we need. Isn't that funny? I mean, it's pretty brash, but I also love my voiceover because I feel like that lady's hairdo, I feel like she would have a voice like that. So yes, bad boss. People leave their jobs because they don't appreciate or respect or feel the love from their boss. They're looking to accept more responsibility. They want to advance more quickly. This is like the most shocking. This is the most shocking part to me about why people leave their jobs, because they want to be advanced. They want to learn faster. They're doing well. They're smart. So why do we feel like somebody who's doing this job, right? In order for them to do this job, this person has to move to this job. Like, it's so compartmentalized and such an archaic way of thinking. We need to constantly engage people, right? We've become very isolated. And I don't know how this works specifically in the COVID era, right? But once we get back to work, look at this. Wow. Isn't this learning from each other, right? Taking this person and moving them here part-time, helping each other, mentorship, right? Succession planning, transfer of information. This person's busy. Oh, you want to be, learn some management skills. You want to be a team lead, invoices and certificates, client management. Here, let me teach you how to do client management. Why don't you take on a couple of clients? I feel like people need to share their knowledge, and if you don't let your employees leave because they want more opportunity. I mean, we have been complaining and starving in the insurance industry for people within that like senior to management level space, I would say, like ever since I can remember. So if you have engaged people that are wanting to move forward, let them fly. So the third reason is that they leave for a pay increase, right? And this is another reason that I feel is like, I mean, it's hard if you're managing a really large staff, but you need to set expectations. I get that, but you need to pay your staff well, right? Giving an entry-level employee a 3% wage increase is not going to break the bank, but it's definitely going to make them feel appreciated. Like, so pay your staff well, right? It's not worth you losing them to a competitor, because we all know what happens, right? This person goes to your competitor, and then another competitor loses staff and they get hired at your shop for more money than they were making before. And it's all like this big make work cycle of people jumping ship to get more money. So if we could pay our staff well, like really well from the beginning, I think that you would see that turnover decrease like substantially. So, one thing I can tell you is statistics say that if your employees take an opportunity to counteroffer, they will end up leaving your firm anyways within a year. So don't let it get to that point. Set expectations. Have meaningful employee reviews. Like, don't just tick off the box and say that you did it. Really talk to your staff, right? What are their pressure points? What do they want? One thing too I want to point out is that it's super rare to have somebody leave their job for the same pay. So if you pay your staff really well, your chances of them leaving are like really slim, unless, point number one, they hate their boss. Sorry, I had to just put it in there. Competition in our industry, like competition for staff, is fierce. So I feel like if you can reduce turnover and pay your staff well and keep them happy from the beginning, I believe that you will see that paid back tenfold. So the fourth category, so we have hate your boss, looking for more opportunity, and pay. The fourth opportunity, which I would add in there, is that people nowadays are just like really open to change. They're open to hearing about new and exciting opportunities. So I love this idea of some more interesting, different types of roles coming from some of these insurtechs and broker tech firms. It's really a cool outlet to marry like insurance and technology together and come up with some different client service focused, technical focused firms that are just a little bit different than what we're used to doing. So I think that if you can control some variety in your own firm, then you won't run into that. But you know what? You can't control everything. People will leave. There's always going to be a certain amount of attrition in the firm. But just be aware that people do like variety. They want to be challenged, and try to focus on that. So if you have growth and you have turnover, then you need recruitment, right? So wouldn't it be nice? I just need a little bit of water here. Wouldn't it be nice if you had like this nice, warm candidate database that you could go to whenever somebody gave their notice, right? Or if somebody was promoted, or you got a new client, or your workload was too high, that you could just phone them up. Hi there, warm passive candidate. And also, this is really old school now. Did you know that this is the sign for phoning now? Not this, but I'm not new school, so this is how I do it. So it would be nice, right? Like, I make that warm candidate pipeline sound so easy, but I mean, of course, like, have no doubt there are challenges, like big challenges with recruitment, and that is why I have a successful business, right? Just-in-time recruitment is not fun for anyone. So just-in-time recruitment, right, without a few people in the background that you're already connected with, means that you're already a man down, so you have to do their job. You have to do your own job. And now you also need to look for a new staff member. So that's not fun. That's not a great that's like a feeling of desperation. So even though it's work, right? It's hard work and difficult to build this candidate pipeline. But if you can, I bet you, like, anything difficult is worth doing. And anything difficult, probably your competitors aren't doing it, or they're not doing it well. So my advice would be to really spend some time working on that, pipeline. And I think that it will make life easier for you for sure, and really like create a positive morale for your firm. So let's do a survey, second survey, and well, I have 3 surveys, but this one is the second. So does your company that you know of have a pipeline of warm candidates, a formal pipeline of warm passive candidates? So what I mean by formal is that there's actually a list of people that is accessible by a few in the organization that is discussed on a reasonably consistent interval, and that list is added to, it is deleted depending on when you meet the people and what you think of them in terms of a fit. So it's a group that's monitored, and passive means that these people want to work for your organization. They're not job seekers. They're not applying for other jobs outside of where they are. You know, they're quite happy where they are, but they want to work with your firm because you were able to explain to them how you work. They are in tune with your core values. If they were to make a move, it would be to your firm. So that's what I mean by passive. How are we doing here? Ready to hear about some challenges of the recruitment industry? So challenges specific to the insurance industry. Again, it goes back to a misperception of what the insurance industry is. This is one of my favorite slides. It's kind of like a bad day slide when you're having a bad day. And it's a little bit negative, but I feel like this is the perception sometimes of the insurance industry, right? What my friends think I do, like going out partying, what my mom thinks I do, doing formal presentations, probably not sitting on my piano in the living room. What my clients think that I do, you know, what I think that I do, like just herding cats, and then what I actually do. So the bottom right-hand slide is the reason and the perception, I think, of insurance that we really need to work hard on getting past. So in the industry, I know that people are trying hard to change this, but there's one of the challenges in recruitment, like when you actually go up and contact a candidate to join your firm, there's a lack of really cool places to work. So sometimes it's hard to get excited about the reasons why they would come on board, especially on the broker side. You know, a lot of brokerages are very similar, especially surrounding like the work that you do. It takes a little bit more effort to kind of distinguish why your brokerage is different and what areas it's strong in, just to make you stand out and to be able to communicate that. A challenge is posting jobs for your insurance roles. That is not recruitment. And I feel like posting jobs is like deflating, because basically you post the jobs on your website, and if people really want to work at your company, then they might apply for the job. But if they're looking to work for your company, they should be on your passive candidate list, first of all. And then if you have your job, you know, being picked up by Indeed, then I feel like the volume of candidates that you get that are not qualified just aren't worth, it's just not worth your time to go through them all, right? And recruitment takes time. Like, this is a hard market, the hardest market I think that we've ever seen. And people are busy, right? Like, staff is getting worn out. People are busy. People are wanting to focus on innovation. If you're working in broker tech, you know, you're so focused on what you're doing to build your business. I feel like who has time for recruitment, right? It's one of those necessary evils that you have to do. But with challenges, as Sharif said yesterday in the opening CEO panel, with challenges, there's always opportunity, right? So what are the opportunities in spending some time focused on recruiting for your firm? Well, first of all, I mean, building that candidate pipeline, right? Building a candidate pipeline of people that you like really want to work with, right? Those people who you are excited to work with, who you want to bring on board. I feel like getting rid of that just-in-time effort that you need to do in recruitment when somebody resigns. So building the pipeline of people that you have control over. That is one of the huge opportunities here, but it does take time. It's an opportunity to promote your business, right? Be proud of your company. Talk about how great it is. And really, people are super interested in listening about new opportunities. And they're interested in learning about their competitors and other organizations. So if you were to hop onto LinkedIn and contact somebody that you thought looked like a star candidate and just say, hey, you know, do you want to take 10 or 15 minutes to learn about what we're doing over at ABC Brokerage? I bet you that 9 times out of 10, that person would probably say yes. It's also a lot more relaxed and friendly to do a warm introduction like that than just to reach out to them in a just-in-time situation and be like, hey, we're looking for this position. You look good. Let's have a chat. Like automatically people are like, whoa, I don't even know you. And you want to talk to me about a job? So I feel like cultivating that relationship and that familiarity, right? That is what we have to do. So also it's flattery, right? Like who doesn't like to receive a phone call saying, wow, congratulations on getting your CIP. You did that in 2 years, or, you know, I see that you grew up in Saskatchewan, or good job on graduating from university. Like there's so many things that you can gain and ask questions about from just looking at somebody's LinkedIn profile. So keep that in mind, right? Make it personal. Just trying to look at some of these comments, but it's hard for me to read them as I go through. It's pretty interesting. So one of the opportunities, the last one that I thought of, which I don't believe that a lot of people do this right now, but because we have a gap in a lot of that senior level space, what I was thinking, and I would actually love to start a pilot project with this, where there would be maybe like a group of 10 brokerages who would be on board to trying this. So what my idea is getting people to commit to hiring somebody from outside of the industry, like maybe every 18 to 24 months. And I'm talking about people who are professional, smart, motivated, engaged, you know, educated, people who have the skills in whatever it is that you're looking for to hire, like people who have those skills and the maturity and the confidence, but they just don't know about insurance, right? Not necessarily people who are job seekers either, but like people who you just feel a great connection to, and then teach them the insurance. Now, of course, if you're in an office of 3, that might not work. But if you're in an office of more than 15 people, I feel like that's a really doable opportunity for you to bring someone on board. And what it will do is it'll provide some perspective, some diversity, and also like some really strong leadership. So we have strong people in the insurance world, but I feel like we're probably 10 or 15 years away from the millennials being like really, really strong leaders. And I guess I should be careful with using millennials because I know that they're just a few years younger than I am, but I just think that we need to populate the industry with a few more seasoned people. So what do you think about that? Like hunting for people, does that sound fun to you? I mean, I love it. You got to kiss a lot of frogs, don't get me wrong. But when you find that prince, like, is it ever worth it? And they stick around for a little while, it feels like a job well done. So the last item that I'm going to talk about is just some recruitment strategies. I love that. We've had more, I'm just reading the chat here. We've had more success hiring people with those key traits. It's so true. Everybody wants to hire someone with experience if they can, but you know what? Dial it back and really focus on what matters. Okay, so does anyone, just moving on to the recruitment strategies, does anyone in your office spend time on outbound recruitment? That is something that is really important. in terms of like reaching out to people and finding the people that you want to hire. This is a job posting. Job posting is not recruitment. You might be lucky and get the odd candidate from posting a job, but I would say that in general, the time it takes to monitor the job posting and the caliber of people that come in through that, it's not always great. So I would suggest that outbound recruitment activity is definitely a recruitment strategy that you might want to use. And LinkedIn is a great place to do that. So it's an increasingly popular tool to use for recruitment at the company level. And also a lot of your clients will be on LinkedIn. So not only does it allow you to look at staff in your industry, but it allows you to comment and be in touch with your clients if they have a strong LinkedIn presence. Okay, now employees, millennials and Gen Z. Yes, I know LinkedIn is for old people. LinkedIn is for old people and Facebook is for old people. I get it. But we're meeting you halfway on a lot of other things. So we need you to get on LinkedIn. If you want to be recognized by other employers, if you want to progress your career and make some connections in the industry, I would suggest that getting on LinkedIn and doing like a really great profile overview is perfect. Employers, if you're going to go on LinkedIn and dabble in this recruitment space, you have to also have a great profile, something that's interesting, a picture that looks inviting, maybe a few words on your core values, a company website, and make sure that it's clear what you do, so that when you reach out to somebody, they can really, oh, millennial here, LinkedIn is the best tool. Awesome. I love it too. Perfect, LinkedIn. And a referral, so another strategy. So we have here outbound recruitment using LinkedIn and employee referrals. If your employee brings you an amazing staff, right? And that you could put a parameter on it, like they need to stay there for a year before they get their bonus. But make that bonus like really substantial. I mean, don't give this person a $250 gift card to the mall. Like give them a trip to Mexico. If you had to use a recruiter to staff all of your positions, like don't get me wrong, it's worth the money, but it's not cheap. Give your staff a trip to Mexico if they provide you with an amazing staff member, and make sure you ask them this question. Who do you know outside of our company that's really good at their job, right? Who do you know at your company within the insurance industry that's really good at their job? I don't care if they're open to opportunity. I don't care if they love their boss. Who do you know that's really good at your job? I get referrals sometimes. I ask people for referrals and they say, well, I don't really know anyone who's looking right now. I don't want people who are looking, to be honest. Just tell me who's good and I'll find them and track them down. Like that, I think, is where there's a little bit of a miscommunication in asking for referrals from your staff, right? You don't want your dentist's son. You don't want the cousin that just moved here. You really like want someone who's good at their job. So keep that in mind and keep building those relationships. And then the last one, in terms of recruitment strategies, of course, is have you engaged with a third-party recruiter? There's many ways that you can access a third-party recruiter for use of their services. Now, some companies are pretty rigid with how they operate, but being a new company, I feel like Sauce Recruitment, the whole reason that I started Sauce Recruitment is to come up with a flexible way of working with my clients where there was a win-win situation. I want to be flexible to your needs. I want to come up with a solution and a plan to get you what you need. So it doesn't always have to be that you're working with a recruiter to fill a job that's open. I have many clients actually who basically just say to me, Jen, when you come across the best person in this industry, we want to know who they are. And that's it. They may or may not have a job, but those clients are building their passive candidate pipeline. So it's my job to communicate to the candidate that there's not a job right now, but we introduce them to the new employer and they go for coffee. And those are the people who you end up hiring like 6, 8, 12 months down the road. And there's a level of comfort there, right? Like you feel like you've bonded, they know what they're getting into. I feel like it's all about building relationships with people and trying to establish a level of comfort before they come on board. So utilize a recruiter to do that. Feel free to reach out to me if you want to have a chat about it. Definitely, the more you work with the recruiter, the more comfortable they get with looking for exactly what you value and the type of individual that will land well in your organization. So to finish off, I just have really a few points on things that I've noticed throughout this global pandemic in terms of how it's affecting like both recruitment as well as employee turnover. It's hard, like it's really hard to get people to leave right now. People are still leaving. I mean, there's still a decent amount of turnover that's happening out there for sure. But I feel like once we have this plan to roll back into the office in a meaningful way, there is going to be like a huge rebalancing. I feel like there's going to be a flood of resignations, right? All of those people who hate their boss, who were going to leave right before COVID happened, and then COVID happened and we were all at home and they didn't have to see their team anymore. They're actually quite happy being at home, just doing their job. So I feel like there's going to be resignations from that group of people that's just being sort of accumulating since we've been at home. And I also think that there's going to be a flood of hiring because a lot of companies, they're not into doing the online onboarding. Like that's a little bit of a different animal, right? It is happening, but I think that a lot of employers have been running on a really skimpy staff, which is probably not working out in their favor because in this hard market, people are getting really overwhelmed working at home. They're becoming disconnected. And if they don't have the support, as soon as things change, like you're going to see people leaving because of that. So eventually there's going to have to be hires. It's inevitable. The rebalancing is going to happen when people decide whether or not they're in line with how their employers are rolling out the back to work situation. So you may love working at home and your employer may say everybody back in the office 5 days a week, and that just might not jive for you. So there's so many other things too that play into that, of course. Is your spouse working or not? Are your kids in school or not? So just keep that in mind. And I would just say there's not really a lot that you can do about that rebalancing, but just be aware that I really do think it's going to happen. I think it will balance because there will be a contingent of people that want what you're offering. It'll just take a little bit of time for that to really settle out. So no in-person networking, of course, that's been a huge hindrance to hiring staff because of course, a lot of people rely on that really casual touch point of meeting at an insurer. That should have been one of my polls. Did you meet your current employer at an insurer event? I mean, or at a hockey game. There's so many social activities that keep people in touch and just chatting comfortably. And if you gravitate towards somebody from a personal standpoint, often a job opportunity comes from that down the road, but there's no more networking opportunities. So we're going to have to be more creative and really embrace looking for staff through our employees and also through LinkedIn. The last piece here that's really impacted, I think, is through COVID is this online interview process. So I think that the longer we stay at home, the more work, if you start hiring people, the more work you really need to put into the interview process, right? I'm kind of guilty of relying a lot on the soft skills as well. When you meet the person, do they thank reception when they come in, right? Do they greet reception? Do they have a good handshake? Do they look you in the eye? Do they have clean shoes? These are things that I look for when I interview candidates in person, but all of those things are gone now. So we have to rely on a more technical, robust interview process that can really be better compared and contrast as we're all sitting in our in our living rooms, like doing our job, right, or our home offices. So try to develop a few standard questions. I did want to just show this book to people who are doing hiring. Thank you, Dora, if you're on the call. This was I just have to get my glare here. This was a recommendation from an insurance connection that I have, Hiring for Attitude. It's by Mark Murphy. And I'm actually not an avid reader. I'm starting to get into some of the recruitment and leadership books because that really is something I'm super interested in. But this book actually will provide you with some really cool, it's like a working book. So you need to work through it, asking questions, brainstorming about your company. And it really allows you to own what you're looking for in a candidate. It allows you to hire that certain type of person, like a really reliable, engaged, and someone with a lot of integrity. I mean, those are qualities that most people would have, but don't get the wool pulled over your eyes by somebody who's charismatic or by somebody who has a really great education. Focus on these questions that you develop for your own firm and stick to them, right? It's such a cool, insightful book, and I would recommend it to anybody who is having trouble or who wants to put a bit more formality into their hiring process. That's it. So hopefully you found that overview to be insightful. Carla, I see here, attitude is the most important thing in all and good people. It's so true. It is so true. You cannot teach that. We can teach insurance. Thank you for sitting with me. I hope that you found maybe like a renewed interest in promoting our industry, focusing on your interview process, meeting some great people, like finding those key people for your organization and spending some time, even if it's just a quick phone call every week. Feeling excited about recruitment. That's what I was hoping to do today, and really focused on building that warm candidate pipeline. So to wrap it up, one last survey here, which is actually, it was kind of like not a formal survey, but I just really want to know, do you feel excited about the future, right? Yes or no? And you know what? Be honest, because I think it's anonymous. So yes, I feel excited. I'm going to submit my answer here. Do you feel excited about the future? If you can refer back to your 2 or 3 bullet points that you wrote at the beginning of this, and just send me an email about what you're looking for, right? I mean, joking, not joking, but if you have that unicorn staff that you're looking for, or that really tough position that you just haven't been able to find the right person to fill, send me a note, please. And you know what? Let's see what we can do. Thank you so much for coming. And I'm just going to pop up my info here, but you can find me on LinkedIn if you're keen to connect. Thank you. And I guess I'll open that up to questions if there's questions coming in.
Thank you so much, Jen. Yeah, and just for everyone, throw your questions in the chat in the Q&A section, and we'll get to as many as we can. I do have some already for you here, Jen, that came through. The first, you touched on it a little bit, but for people looking for a job right now, without them being able to do their normal networking, what do you suggest they do to make themselves seen by employers?
I mean, I think that like really the strongest method right now is utilizing LinkedIn. And I think that you need to make yourself stand out just by saying something interesting about yourself, maybe the reason why you got into insurance or why you're keen to connect, but definitely personalize any messages. Don't just send a note saying like, I'm interested in the insurance industry. Do you have time to talk? I think that I was going to say like phone people, but that's even hard nowadays without asking them what their number is, because we're all kind of rerouted through our cell phones. But yes, just make sure that your profile is up to date, that you have a strong professional picture, and do what you say you're going to do, right? Sometimes if you even just drop into the LinkedIn note that you're going to call that person at a certain time and you actually do that, it just shows a little bit of integrity. So follow up, do what you say you're going to do, and just really be yourself.
No, that's great advice. The next question coming in from Jonas is, what tips do you have for those being interviewed and how to present yourselves, especially I think more so in an online world?
Mm-hmm. So I love having like a professional or clear workspace when you're doing an online interview. So make sure that you don't have distractions at home. Make sure that you have yourself lit up. If you're sitting in a dark corner of your office, like I have this. So I have this little nightlight, right? I stole it from my daughter's bedroom, but it works perfectly. And I just think it's important to be able to see the face, have a nice clear background. And I always suggest like printing off your resume to have it beside you, and also having a glass of water just to it cleanse your palate if you need to as you're going through and you dry up. And go for like a 5-minute walk before you sit down. Those are my recommendations to my candidates.
I agree. The lighting, I can tell you, kind of moving into the online world, is I'm a grown man with a ring light at home now, which I never thought I'd have.
Yes.
These are my new things to get rid of shine, apparently, for my 5 head. So yeah, things make yourself look good on the cameras is important, I think. I wanted to touch a little bit. Sorry, there was a question here. So how does one balance the budget constraints that might drive a more junior hire versus the need for expertise that a more senior but more expensive candidate would bring? So kind of the difference between...
I mean, like honestly, I can just tell you that you need to pay your staff well, but I've never been in a situation of managing a business. It's easy for me to say pay your staff well because I have one other person on my payroll. So, hopefully we'll be knocking it out of the park. But I honestly don't know how to answer that question. I mean, one thing that I would suggest that I've just seen from industry is there seems to be a lot of cash flowing at the top level with extra expenses surrounding parking and entertainment. And if you need to cut somebody's, conference trip once a year to fund the correct salary for your junior staff, like I would suggest that is something definitely worth looking at.
Yeah, your comment about people leaving for the same or just slightly better pay just makes me think of losing a customer to a remarket, right? If they went to another place to get the same slightly better price, right? If you can help them out and give them that money up front, that would really help.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry, I had one quick question that I wanted to ask, because you did mention about outbound recruitment. For some of the brokers that are a 4 or 5 person shop, who should be in charge of outbound recruitment?
I think it just gets back to really trying to create that great perception of your business, that you're a fun and engaged place to work. And it comes back to just like at your industry events, you talk about how great your company is. You really hit on those points that are interesting and that make people curious about working there. So I don't know that it has to be one person, even at a really large firm, it should be a group effort to try and engage with people that you think would be a good fit for your organization. Now, obviously, if you get to the point of like reaching out and wanting to talk to somebody about a specific role, then I would say it's just kind of best in front. I have a few clients that I work that way with, and we actually have like a really, let's call it an open relationship, where we find great candidates for their firm. And it doesn't actually matter if I introduce them or if they get introduced through the employer themselves. We kind of take the approach of who has the better relationship, who would be able to speak with this candidate at the level that they need to make them comfortable. And that's how we decide who will make the outbound call.
Yeah, I like that. Just who actually knows the person, get in touch with them. One question I had, and you might not know the answer to this off the top of your head, but I was just curious, for more so for employers, how can they tell when they're starting to, create that burnout with their clients? Is there any kind of indicators or things they can do to avoid that as well?
With their employees?
Yeah, sorry, with their employees. Yes, sorry. You mentioned, burnout is something everyone has right now.
I feel like leadership is such a huge part of our industry. I feel like it is overlooked and that it's actually not implemented as strongly as it could be across the board, right? There's a few companies that do really well at it, but in general, there is such a lack of communication, excuse me, and lack of knowing your staff that if you don't know that your staff is burning out, then you don't have the right leadership in place. Like, you need to talk to your staff every day. And if you don't, and they're going silent, I mean, going silent is huge, right? Like, I'm probably the most vocal person in most offices when I'm working in a team environment. And when I go quiet, boy, like, look out, because I've got something cooking on the back burner. And I think that that is what you really need to watch out for, like changes in people's attitudes and changes in their participation. But first of all, don't let that happen. Like, focus on communication. Make the time to make your staff feel important.
No, I love that. And the last question here for employers, what can they do to make sure that they've created a path for upward movement for their employees?
Well, you know, as I was practicing my presentation last night, I was just sort of thinking through like that thing of keeping people engaged, and I really loved this like action that I did of showing, just kind of came to me last night, but showing how you can really take these two separate positions and meld them together. What is wrong with doing like cross training at multiple different levels to really engage people from being able to mentor and be mentored? It's an automatic succession plan. You know, what generation am I? Gen X. Like, I'm just before the millennials, but so I think like a millennial is my point. And at one point, you know, I really wanted to be engaged. My employer was fantastic. I actually had two desks in the office, one on the main floor and one on the top floor, and I had two different jobs. So if you have an employee that's capable of doing two different jobs, I mean, heck, give it a try, right? Be flexible, be creative, and just keep people engaged.
No, I love it. And then so there was one last question, sorry, that came through, and I think it's a good one. Is you know, is there a place that employers can look to figure out what the pay scale should be for new hires, executives in the insurance industry?
I don't think that, I mean, I have never seen a document like that. You know, at one point when I worked at a larger firm, there was some information that was being compiled, but it wasn't through like any organized institute or anything like that. It was just more through like a general offering through what we saw from our candidates. And I think that I'm happy to have a talk about ranges, but I don't know that there's a specific document, especially on the broker side. It seems to be extremely flexible. There doesn't seem to be like the wage ranges that you see on the insurance company side. And so sometimes that's the tough part too, because there is such a discrepancy with what we pay our staff that it's hard sometimes to know what to do.
Yeah, I think you'll know when people leave, right? Then you'll know that you're underpaying, right?
But one thing for sure is that after you have about 2 years of insurance experience, like, keep your eye on those staff, because after they have their first entry-level job, like I said, the competition for staff is fierce, and people just want individuals that have a couple of years experience. And at that point, they're still having their entry-level pay. That's where you see like a big bump. So try to get your staff paid with a nice increase after, you know, 2 or 3 years of employment, and it'll keep them happy for a few more.
That's a really good tip, making sure you invest the time in them, keep them around, keep them on your staff.
Absolutely. I mean, turnover is costly. It's probably more costly than losing a client.
Mm-hmm. Jen, I want to say thanks again, and thank you to our sponsors, SGI. So, real quick, Jen, how can people get in touch with you?
I have my information here. Of course, I'm on LinkedIn like all day. Here's my info.
Perfect.
And yeah, email, phone, you name it.
All right. Well, thanks again, Jen. I want everyone to stick around. We're going to move right into our next session.
Thank you.